online? No. But, yeah. Okay, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No problem. And so for next year, for 2024, the budget that you'll see in February will make this a little more clear. Unfortunately, in this one, it doesn't divide up things quite right. The contribution this year to SVYCC is actually is proposed to be $64,260. I haven't received an official ask for this year, but that was as per our 2023 financial plan. So that's as per that plan. And where that there should be $10,000. Oops, sorry. I'm going to share again, even though
It's okay. Just go.
this zero, that should be $10,000 right here. For the contribution to reserve. And that's where we're at with S218 at the moment. If there's any questions from commission, I can take those now, or if there's any adjustments that you would like me to put into the financial plan for consideration in February.
No.
Does anybody have any questions? I have a question that with the commission report that's coming up, which is about youth programs that I have a hard time, us as the RDCK Rec Commission doing when we have a youth community center. And these youth programs should be held in the community center under the community, their programming. So I know that it's a commission report, but it ties into this funding that we're doing. And I'm concerned that we're giving $64,000 and we're being asked in another service to fund programs that should be coming out of the youth center.
Yeah, and through the chair, Tricia and I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to S230.
Okay.
And we'll just try to keep that all together because there is a number of options in that report. And this is, I don't want to go too far down it right now unless we want to discuss it and complete it right now.
No.
Just we were on that budget. That's why I brought it up.
Right.
But
All right.
So through the chair, I'm going to move to S225.
that's the one we got.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll bring it up. All right. So S225 is the contribution service for the Salmo swimming pool. So there are two things. There's two suggestions here. In this budget, you'll notice that when I did this, we hadn't made the transfer to S230 to the rec service yet. So the actual surplus right here is as per that report. This is about I think it was $61,000. So this surplus will be less. We're projecting right now that the aquatic budget will be around the net expense of the aquatic part of the service next summer will be around $100,000. So that's what this number is here. The 99,429 is the transfer to S230 to pay for lifeguards and the operations of the pool. But all those detailed expenses are in S230. So what I do want to point out is that we could this year I know is a hard budget year in the regional district. But if we were keeping up with the operations of this service, S225 has been carrying large surpluses for a bit because the pool hasn't been in operation. The requisition, if we were right now, if it was at 69,000 this year, would be below what the net operating expenses are for the pool. There will be a large surplus. You could keep taxation. You could keep taxation level, but it would mean that next year you would have quite a large taxation increase. So I could detail that out more for February now that I've got the final numbers. But I did just want to get some pre-input into that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that because I'd like to know the numbers you're thinking of before we make a decision. Because, yeah, if it's the cost of living, I don't get too upset. But if we're talking about 25%, for example, I would get upset. And I realize, of course, at the same time, we've got so much work to do on that pool that we've got to think about it. We can't just give the money away and let it sit someplace. We do need to make those improvements, and no matter how we do. So thanks. If you could do that, Joe and Chair, I'd appreciate that. Let's just wait and see.
I'm just going to stop sharing so that we can see everyone. Sorry, I meant to do that.
Joe, do you have what kind of percentage you're looking at?
Well, this year, I believe that's right now it's probably around 11 or 12% right now. But that again, we could reduce because we are going to have we have a surplus that could allow us to tax what we require for next year with the surplus. The big thing is what will happen the year after.
That's right, exactly. And that's where I'm coming from. We have to think about the future and just to make it level for next year and the year after make it 20%, it's not really a good idea. So if we could sort of spread it over a little bit, spread the joy around, so to speak, I think that'd be a good idea. And also, if we can keep it at just the rate of inflation roughly, I think that next year with the pool operating, they'll have a way better idea. And I think, quite frankly, a lot of our residents are feeling a little bit choked because they didn't have the chance to play in the water last year, and yet they put money towards it. And it's sometimes hard to say, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but rather than give you your tax money back this year and charge you triple next year, we'd rather like to spread the joy around. My point. Thank you.
Joe, can you tell us what we have total in reserves?
In this service, we don't have a reserve for S225 or S230.
Oh.
We do have an accumulated surplus, but we don't have a reserve. And this is something that I think for the amount of investment that the regional district has in that facility, we may want to be considering this year.
So where does our surplus sit?
Your surplus right now, I'll bring this back up here just a moment. Your surplus right now, as this transfers over, is this 61,000. I don't know if you can see my
61,607.
Yes.
That's what. But where does it actually sit? Just sit in operations in this account? In this service?
In this service, it just sits as prior year surplus. And if I go back, that's why, again, there was a delay between these results have just come in, like we're just finishing these pieces up. In fact, it was Friday when I finally had finance do the last transfers. But where this is just sitting in operating surplus right now.
Susan has a question.
Yes.
Hi, thanks, and we are probably getting there. I'm just curious about what the benefit would be to having the monies sitting in a reserve or just sitting in surplus within the service.
The advantage would be is that the surplus sitting just on the operating account doesn't get the benefit of any of the investments in reserves. So it doesn't accumulate interest in any way, shape, or form. Where if it is in reserves, it does. But the big thing to ask, which is what I'll try and show in February, is right now the taxation level is below the service level. So we're taxing less than what the service actually costs us. So that's the part that we have to kind of come to grips with first. And then, as Director Cunningham was talking about, we have a facility where we have $1 million of improvements that we need to do. The first 220, we essentially got over 50% funding from Community Works, Community Development Grants, and CBT. So that's going to be definitely a strategy for us. But we're not funding this at the level required to meet the operations right now.
Thank you.
So at some point in time, we're going to have a reckoning, and that's why I need to show that to you in February, what those decision points are.
Perfect. And excuse me for interrupting. Are we setting anything aside for asset management?
So through the chair, it's a great question. So here's where we're at. This is one of those, just to Director Lockwood's comments about SVYCC. The pool is actually, the regional district does all the investments in the pool, but the pool is technically owned by the school district. And because that's school district property. So Susan, as a school trustee, I have a meeting, can't remember if it's this week or next week, but I have a meeting with school district about entering into a lease for the property. Because that's one of the handshake deals that hasn't been formalized for 30 plus years.
But didn't they swap properties?
No. We got screwed in that deal. Sorry.
In any case, it wasn't 30 plus years, Joe. It was since 1967.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. I knew I slipped up there.
Oh, it's okay. That was the year the pool was actually built. Before that, we had community bingos every week and all sorts of things to raise the money. And then in '67, during Confederation, the government saw free to give us the funds to actually construct the building. However, yeah, it's now been half a century and it's time to do something, and we are doing it. But at the end of it, we're also going to want to make sure we do something in the way of some kind of asset management, because we're going to need that. And so we have the money set aside when necessary in the future. So we do have to think about those kinds of things. Maybe not immediately, maybe in the back of our head, or maybe a very low sum right now, but it is something that has to be done. And I think we need to be aware of it.
Yeah, through the chair, the board will be getting a asset management report. It was expected for the fall of 2023, but it's spring of 2024. I'd expect that we're looking at it as staff at the end of March, and the board is seeing it in April.
Okay, with your meeting that you're having with the school board about a lease, I would hope that there's just about nothing over $10 a year lease as, well, and I'm serious. I'm not
Sorry, through the
being-
chair, I do know you are. That would
Okay.
be my expectation as well.
Because the school board has benefited greatly by getting property from Salmo and not having to give property, and they've never paid taxes on this property or the piece that sits beside all the years in their possession. So, and the elementary school was a whole piece of property that was donated to the school. So I want you to be able to go in there with a strong conviction of that a partner of the community, we would really like it to be $9.99 a year.
Sean, so just down in the bottom left of your screen, you should see a button that says mute. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions on the pool?
I hate to,
What
I hate
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt, but, I don't know how long this is gonna take, but the restaurant closes in 45 minutes. Thank you. I hate to do this to people, but, you know, I just flew in and I've got to eat. I haven't eaten breakfast today yet. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm sorry for interrupting.
I feel sorry for you.
Any other questions about the pool?
Is it going to be usable this year?
Is it going to be usable this year? We've got the pump
Yes.
finally.
Yeah, we're planning full operations.
Excellent. We could probably open it next month. Joking. Anyways, just because we're not going to have any snow. We'll go on to the next one. S230. Or are you done with that?
Yes.
Yes, what?
But yeah.
I
You're
am,
done
yes,
with
I'm
230?
done with S225.
225. What about 230 now?
230 is now up on the screen.
Okay.
So,
230. That's the bigger one.
No. It's in Mars.
yeah, that's right. It's the longest of the three.
Yeah, that's not least.
It's a different word.
Well, kind of. Oh, no, kind of just. She was trying to do it all.
So through the chair. So right now, this budget, when it was created, we were just using, the budget numbers have been updated, but we were using the requisition amount from the 2023 budget. So that requisition amount of 208, this one right here, it says JC do not use. That amount is from the 2024 plan.
Oh.
So there's a couple of pieces on revenue here that I just want to show. And this is where, if we want, during this discussion, maybe Trish can just outline that programming discussion. But you can see that we are projecting quite a bit more revenue in this area here this year. So that sale of service, part of that would be right now, for example, the summer camp program revenue would be in there. But as you can see from the report, that summer camp revenue comes with also higher expenses. So that's what that report is trying to flesh out. So that's that piece. This 32,000, what we do know is that our programming, in particular with pools and everything, back. So those swim lessons and those kinds of things will be back, which we haven't had in the revenue stream in a bit. Revenue projecting to go up, we're budgeting modestly. That 32,000 this year was 35,000. But you can see we're budgeting 27 the year for 2023. Grant, that is a grant of a fitness program grant. That is something that they feel we should be able to get. That JB is Jesse Bourgeois, who's our regional fitness program. This is the number that comes over from S225. So that's in line 45500. That's that 99,000. So that's covering all the net expenses for the pool. So electrical, chemicals, lifeguarding, and mechanical repairs, those kinds of things. That's the net cost inside S230 for the. This 37,000 prior year surplus, you know that that's going to go up. That's going to go up to around 70,000 from 37. So this is where, again, S224, or sorry, S2, sorry, got so many budgets in my head. This budget, you can see there's $30,000 difference there. Well, if we were just to apply that $30,000 to requisition and bring that requisition amount down, you can see requisition amount get down to fairly similar to what it is this year. But we do need to have a talk about that because that surplus right now is funding operational expenses.
So what kind of percentage are you looking at for this service?
For this service, if this, here's the big challenge with this service is that, for example, last year, because we knew the pool wasn't going to be open the full season, we didn't budget for those full amounts and those types of things in it. So that's why this amount is a little bit less. There's about, I can't remember what the new program, I think that's about $11,000 in new expenditures there. So there was about a month and a half of less pool operations in this budget than what we have in the 2024. So our big problem here is that we've gone a large number of years where we actually haven't seen this salary increase because we've been operating below our regular service level. So to everybody on commission, what that means is that we really need to define our operating, what we want our operations to look at. And I'll have better examples of that in February for what those options could be. Like I have right now, Ryan is detailing out the hours of the fitness center and the hours of the pool operation for you to consider. So if you remember, we've had these conversations before on the similar types. But the one thing that's a big driver in this is paying lifeguards basically essentially the same rate as what we pay lifeguards in Nelson or Castlegar, because we're just not able to get them if we can't compensate them the same.
How come we could get them before the RDCK took over? We always had lifeguards. Now we
well, that's not true. That's why they gave it over to us, is because they were having troubles with all of these things as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the public just didn't know quite that much then.
Well, they were struggling, like, to get staffing. It's not like before when every student wanted to be a lifeguard, and the cost to be lifeguard, like when Tara was a lifeguard, Tara went to Salmon Arm and to Cranbrook to get recertified. Like, it's just, yeah, she had to travel because the courses here get canceled because there was never enough. So it's just so challenging. I think by the time the cost to keep your certification, they just found other jobs.
So is it helping that we're helping with certification? Is it helping
Yeah.
to get lifeguard?
Yeah, through the chair. So the corridor, the Nelson, Salmo, Castlegar corridor, the lifeguarding staffing numbers, so across the district, we made a priority for lifeguard training last year. We're carrying that forward into this year, but our numbers are way up from where they were at the beginning of 2023. In fact, the programming team right now, besides planning for Salmo Pool, is also planning for outreach programs to the lakes and things like that. So to the other recreation services, which we didn't deliver in 2023.
Right.
So that pool is looking better.
Good, good. I don't have a issue of paying lifeguards. I never knew that we ever had because there was always lifeguards there, so.
And even through all the history of the pool, there's always out of town lifeguards. It was never fully staffed by specific just Salmo area. There's always 2 or 3 or wherever the staff was, but there's always a percentage that did travel to Salmo.
No, absolutely. But what we found is, as we know across, I think we've had that discussion around this table as well. Diane has heard it most and hands at the all rec table. But across the province and actually across Canada, lifeguarding is one of the areas that has been really impacted the last 3 years. It's taken a lot of effort to get it built back up again.
Okay. Anything else on that one?
No, I think this budget, in most of the big areas of increase are in salaries. A little bit you'll see that, just so you know, so in this budget now, where it used to be just Joe and Ryan, you guys have met Craig a number of times. He's been leading some of the capital asset management piece, but Craig has been building. That's who you see when you see CS 24. Craig has really been going through those operational costs for things like the pool and making sure fitness equipment is maintained properly and adding those pieces in. So those, I think you can have a much higher level of confidence in. We don't have any capital expenditures planned this year in this, so that was the pool. We don't have any planned for this year. This is going to be a planning year to prep for grants for 2025. Again, where we'll have to look at the pool basin and start making plans for that.
So we're increasing the budget, but our fee schedule is decreasing. Am I right?
Well, from actuals, we could, and this is always a point that I have no problem that we, for example, that we increase the revenue and user fees to what we attained this year. Just as long as we know that it does seem to be a trend where 2023 was almost $32,000, and this year, 2023 at the end of this year is $35,000, not that 31. But when we hit those new marks, sometimes we're always a little hesitant. I have no problems budgeting for it as long as we all know that it just carries a little bit of risk. That's all. But through to Diana, like it's absolutely no problem that we budget to our revenue. So if that's a
Yeah.
suggestion, by all means, we can make that change for February.
I do think that fees should always go up a little bit, because when you stay stagnant in fees and then all of a sudden you have to jump up 25 bucks instead of $5 every year for 5 years, and you jump up 25 bucks in 1 year, it's way
Yeah,
too much for people.
Yeah, and through the chair,
Diana.
we're definitely increasing, we are definitely increasing, like the fees for entry into the fitness center, for example, increased at the same time all fees did across the regional district. So that was, I think it was September 5th of last year.
That's right. Fees and taxes have to go up hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way. I mean, that we go in the hole and then quit. Okay, how are we doing?
One other question about archery. So I see travel for archery. Does that mean that Salmo's getting an archery course? I've had
That
a few
means
people.
that right now we have a line on an archery instructor, and those are the full details of the planning for it. Yes.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Does anybody else have any more questions on S230? Susan?
Here, I'll just stop sharing so we can see everyone.
Thank you. I saw thumbs up from Susan. Hands, do you have any more questions? And I don't know if Jay is on.
I don't see him. Okay. What next?
Okay. And anybody in here? Yeah. Anybody in here?
No.
Okay, let's move on to the next one there, Joe.
Okay, so that's the budgets, and if you want to move to to Tia's programming report.
Okay. I have no
Do
idea.
you want me to put this up on the screen, or?
Well, if you, Susan and Hans doesn't have it, that's fine. You can put it up on the screen. We can't see it here in the room, and I think everybody's gone over the one I printed off here. And it's not good.
Susan,
It came in.
her hands, would you like me to put it up?
Oh, no, it's fine.
I read it with the agenda as the attachment when it came out as an attachment.
Yeah, just a quick report's good. A few words is fine.
You guys saw him with golf course, isn't it?
So, through the chair, is it okay if Trish runs through it quickly for you?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you so much. Through the chair, so I'll skim through the report. I want Hans to be able to eat. So we will sort of focus on a few important details here. So the first part is really just information related to why we think offering camps to the Salmo region would be important, and there's a host of different things as to what the benefits, to individuals participating in camp are. Obviously, one of our main goals with the programming team is to try to provide like services in all of the different areas within the district, and camp was one. When they did a bit of a gap analysis, they sort of felt that there was a need for youth-specific programming in the concept of camp, specific to the summer season. So, well, summer season plus a couple of other littler things, but there's a reason for that too. So there are 3 areas of camp. So one is camp on professional days where school is out and parents may look to camp services to offer some form of childcare or giving kids something to do during professional days when school is not in session. Spring break, which of course is often a time when parents are also in need, or there's a time when kids are looking for things to do. And then of course throughout the summer months of July and August. So there's roughly, I think it's 11 weeks of camp, 10 and a half full weeks of camp being thought of for this year. And really maybe a global statement about this report is really to provide you with some information related to an option for commission to consider, and also to understand the budget impacts of offering this type of service in your region for the youth. But it's really to sort of share, here's a bunch of different ways we could be a part of offering camp if this service was felt to be important within your service area. So we believe that through our budgeting, and so when we budget for camps, there's a whole cost analysis that I won't get into the nitty-gritty details of, but basically when we budget anticipated revenue for offering this service, it's based on the minimum number of children that we would need to run camp, and that cost covers some of the expenses related to offering that service. So what our budgeting is telling us is that if we were to run all of our camp programs at our minimum numbers, it's looking like there would be a tax implication of approximately $1,500 to the service overall. But there's a lot of other pieces to that, but just to sort of, it's an important element in the discussion. So I won't go through the details related to items 3.2 to 3.4. 3.5 is simply letting you know if you wanted to draw your attention to options being considered as part of this report in order to run camp and minimize taxation or make some decisions around the service to minimize taxation. Those are being presented for your consideration. Certainly, I know Director Lockwood talked about the conversation related to SVYCC, and there would be some discussion certainly with them related to some form of partnership in some form or fashion offering camp services. I'll jump maybe down to the options for consideration. So we've come up with 5 different options to offer camp in the Salmo area. So one is that we just simply don't do it, which of course is always an option. And so if it's felt that either another service provider or that this is not a priority that you think would best serve your community, then certainly we would go back and rework the budgets and pull that information out. Option 2 is there's assume the net expense of $6,500 for camp as is, so we could provide the services outlined in the report that would increase taxation by this $1,500-ish in our programming budget. Option 3 would be reduce the service level. So I think I talked about, say, roughly 10 and a half weeks of camp. We could look at that and go, well, what if we only want to offer it in the summer? What does that expense then look like? Or if we only want to offer it on professional days or whatever our narrowing down of that scope of service, we certainly could look at that as well. What is an important point in that is that there is cost associated with putting on a service like this, that even if you only offer 1 camp or if you offer 10 camps, there's a base cost that is required in order to get the program started. So things like the hiring of staff, the onboarding and training of those staff, getting the program set up and advertised, really all that's kind of like a sunk cost when you actually look to offer this type of service that is not made up through the registration fees. So just to be aware of that point. Option 4 is to only offer camps if there is an outside additional funding source that can make up the taxation difference. And of course, that could come from any variety of sources, but if that option were to be considered, camp would not run unless there was some form of contribution towards that programming area. And then number 5 is if we say, well, we could do some trades, and if there's other programming that's currently being offered that taxation is covering, and we go, camp is really important to us, and we really want to see that happen. Maybe we prioritize that service over something else and kind of come with some sort of middle ground to decrease the tax level. So I know I really quickly breezed through that, but maybe I'll throw it open for conversation and questions back to Joe and I.
Okay, thank you, Chair. If I may,
Yes.
through the chair, I like the idea, yeah, the thing is, like many things we've done over the years, for example, like soccer school and things like that, they started out with a bang and then they faded. So I would like to try it for a sample of some way, and I realize that, as you mentioned, there's a startup cost that's quite huge. But can we work on something to minimize the startup cost, just so we can get in a couple of things, like maybe spring break and something else, and just to get it started and see what the community's reaction is, because I think that's the big thing. If there's a real huge community reaction, just like there is around the pool, then I guess we're going to have to look for some way of funding it, and funding it well. But if the community action is mediocre, we'll fund it to a mediocre level, and if there is no you understand where I'm going. So I don't know, it's just a suggestion as to what directions we could work at.
Through the chair, this is a program that SVYCC should be putting on, since they can get grants to run a program like this.
Staff?
Joe, I'm thinking that it might be, I don't know, sorry, and I'll apologize, I only have my 6-month worth of knowledge on those kind of details with those agreements, so maybe I'll throw it to Joe to answer that question.
Yeah, so through the chair, to Director Cunningham, to that question, Ian, that's where you could direct us that if we don't get a certain level of grant funding for it, that we don't do it. So I know that some of our program staff, and I believe this is Tyler that's been working on this the most. That Tyler has been in contact with staff at SVYCC. So we have done those types of things before. But like, this is where that option could be. You tell us, hey, if you get a grant for it, you get this much of a grant for it, then go for it. And then that's where we would talk to SVYCC and possibly look for other sources of
If I may, I remember some years ago when the trust gave over $100,000 to the fitness center for a 2 or 3 year program, and that was not the fitness center. Excuse me, to the yeah. Okay, for
I was going to say I don't remember that, but
anyway, yeah, and then they did it. It was a 2 year program, and after that they said sorry, no more. But they may be willing right around now to say again if there's if we can present a case for it. I don't know. This is something I'll have to think about, because I certainly like the idea of presenting it and going with it. I guess the figure out is how and how much cost.
Margaret has a question.
What age groups are looking at for this program? Or camps?
Sorry, I'll take that, Joe. So through the chair, generally camp is offered in kind of chunks of appropriate age group, but and that can vary in the number of programs within those age groups. But usually it's kind of the 6 to 12 window of age.
So I'm gonna just, I get a lot of complaints about the community center and programs being canceled because of not enough kids. But they are funded, as we see in our budget, of the 60-some thousand dollars. And I know that that's not a lot of funding, but that's not all the funding that they get. And so I'm concerned that we're gonna, as a rec commission, take on more programming for something that should be under the youth umbrella. And possibly that this is where they should be with their funding, is to be able to produce these kind of programs if they're widely wanted.
Yeah, I have a thought. We do set 10 grand a year aside each year for people who request grants. We could put some of that money into the youth program to find out how it works. That's just thinking about it, and that would supply the money, the startup money that they need, because we haven't had that many people asking us for grants lately. And of course, we can always go to something like Dot Night and see about getting some more. So but if we're gonna do dot night, I'm looking at my watch, yeah. If we're gonna do dot night, we don't have that much time left, so it's something to think about.
Through the chair, there are other grants available. There's, like the Legion has money available for programs like that, if you ever requested funds from there.
Through the chair to Ian, I didn't hear that suggestion.
Well, sorry, I'm saying, there are other places and organizations that will give grants towards, programs like that, like the Legion has money, for example.
Thank you.
He's got his hand up.
It's just public, it's public.
Oh,
Okay, so there is 4 options in front of us. Does anybody want to put a recommendation forward at this time? Oh, Susan, I see your hand up. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of really good questions, and as folks know, I also wear the hat of president of the SVYCC, and I'm also a school board trustee. So I'm just curious about when this comes forward to this table for any kind of decision making. It would be very helpful for me to understand what other kinds of conversations are being had with those other groups, so that we have a sense of what capacity is and what other items they may already have in place, so that we are ensuring that we are, leveraging and complementing and not duplicating. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. That's where I was going with that. We need to, the youth center could be putting on some programs during those times off, and they're not being fulfilled. So I'm concerned that us taking on something that is not, the library does things. Have we talked to the library what they do on, I know that they might not call them camp days, but they do lots of programming that happens on days off, spring break and stuff like that. And would we be pulling children from that program to go into this program and have another program suffer?
The library programs are done with volunteers, and therefore the cost is relatively low. Then the number of people participating is never more than 20. And the kind of people that do things at the library are generally not the kind of people that are physically active, if you know what I mean. They'd rather exercise their brains and their muscles. So that said, I'm not sure what the level of crossover is, but maybe if we just ask, why don't we start by asking the kids and finding out what people and kids want, and then work from there. And if there seems to be a demand, then we can set it up. But in the meantime, let's find out. We need to explore, so that we're making decisions. Because the thing was, and Chair, I think you mentioned it, that they're not getting very good attendance at the programs they have. So why is that? Is it because, maybe it's because they don't like the programs, or they've been enough to those programs enough, they want something new? I have no idea. And this is where we need to do some investigation, because obviously this is a new program and maybe it'll do really well immediately, or we'll see.
Go ahead, Susan. Nope.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we're all on the same page with this, is just having those conversations so that we understand how they're fitting together. And I would offer that the SVYCC does the dot exercise annually with kids to understand what the programming they're interested in is, and we still get relatively low turnout. So there is a bit of a leap of faith that we might have to be prepared to take on this one. I'm excited about the initiative, though. I would say from my trustee hat, I hear a lot from people in the community around concern about what kids do over the summer holidays. And so I would suggest also speaking with the Child Care Center would probably be very useful as well. But I think it's a great initiative, and I look forward to the next level of information.
Margaret has a question.
So I think something to keep in mind that could be incorrect here, but I'm not sure how much SYPC offers for 6-year-olds and 12-year-olds. It seems like it's more an older age group. And to do a democracy thing with the younger kids might be too young for them. They do that with the high school. So maybe just something to consider that these might be a little bit two different age groups.
Okay, so through the chair, what I've heard, just to summarize, is just to be clear, staff have been talking with SVYCC staff about this, so but we'll bring back some more of the whys this type of programming was identified. Number two is that one of the advantages of us doing camps is that we run very large camp programs in Nelson, Castlegar, and Creston. And so we have a very good training and onboarding program. So there's those synergies that we have with this. And when we did do this for the first time in the Slocan Valley, it was very successful. I think we only had 1 week that we canceled last year in the valley, and we determined that that was because of location. So what we learned in the valley was where the locations are that work, not that camps aren't needed. So we will we'll bring back that information as requested. I just want you to know the one thing that you will be seeing more and more from Tricia and her team are these types of initiatives that we'll put in front of you for you to make a decision on. So there's 2 things that we're really trying to do. And one is be very clear with what our service level is in the budgets, especially as they have been over the past. And asking you every single time and trying to be as detailed as possible about when we think there's an opportunity or something for you to consider to change that service. But we want that to be incredibly transparent, and because it does have budget implications, and we understand that.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Through the chair, I just like to mention that there is a summer program for youth at the Salmo Golf Course. We run a golf clinic for 6 weeks for $20 a participant. We start off with about 20 kids and end up at the end of the year with 6. So, and we bring in a professional golfer to give them lessons.
You know, just through the chair, just so you're aware, we do not experience that with our camps. They're full from the first week. In fact, our busiest day of the registration opens
Is this,
in the regional district.
is this because you moved the kids to the top of the mountain and don't let them off? Just teasing, of course.
We have our ways.
Marissa would like to say
Jim, how are
something.
you doing for time? Because my time is just about up.
And Marissa would like to talk.
I just personally have kids, and I do think it would be a
You
good
guys-
asset for Salmo, and I think it would be good for Salmo. Like, and I know many parents would agree in Salmo, so I think it'd be a good thing.
Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old, I have a 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and it would benefit me and my household to have camps in spring break and
For your 8-year-old.
for my 8-year-old until my other kids are
Right.
The moral of the story, be a better mother.
Yeah. No, I want to shut them off.
Okay, so,
Have we made a decision on that, Chair?
Table it.
I think that the conversation needs to be a little bit more. to come back of what kind of partnership is with the youth center. There, needs to be, because it's not obviously going to happen in the fitness center. So there's going to be rental of gym or whatever, wherever these camps are going to be held. Those are all conversations that we don't know what an end price would be. We have a rough estimate here, but until the conversation happens, there might be some partnering that could happen. That the youth center is like, oh, let us run a program or something like that. So, Joe, I'm just wondering, because so we can get on with this meeting, is that enough information for you guys as staff to be able to have those conversations, to bring back some more information, and then also have those numbers in the budget, but specified that that's what it is. So if we decide yes or no, or partial or whatever, that it's very clear what it is. Does that help?
No, through the chair, the conversation has been fantastic to help us, yes.
Thank you. Good. Perfect.
Okay.
I have 1 minute and 20 seconds left, Chair, because I'd like to have room service, but this crummy hotel doesn't have room service. So you see why I'm pushing for it. My other choice is to go wandering out in traffic, and
You gotta stop
some of you might look.
forward. Okay, so let's go on to correspondence. This is about the heat pump, the fitness heat pump. Did you want to speak on that, Joe?
Yeah, through the chair, just so we're aware, so what that resolution or recommendation does is just give me the power to release the funds once I talk to Lori and just get all the final details. But my understanding from Lori, talking to Lori now a little while ago, is that project is well underway. So I'll have those conversations. It's just getting permission for that to happen. SPYCC and Lori did present that last year, the project about the heat pump.
So moved. I move that the project go ahead and be funded. Is that the word you want?
Yep.
Good.
The board.
Second?
I second.
Everybody
Good.
has it. Do you want me to read it out?
No?
It is a $1,000 contribution towards the heat pump. Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now we did have some public, I don't know who Betsy is, TH or KT, but does anybody have any questions? Oh, Susan, go ahead.
So much, Chair. Just for the record, can it please be noted I abstained from that vote?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how that will be recorded, because usually you can abstain.
So through the chair to Pearl, you just need to note that Susan declared a conflict of interest on that vote because she is chair of the Salmo Valley Youth and Community Center.
Sorry. And she left the room and we voted.
Yes.
Yeah.
She did not speak, so we can say that she left the room. She didn't nod or anything, so thank you, Susan. Is anybody public online? I don't know. I don't know who, that Sean is gone. He did have a question. I don't know what his question was because I couldn't read it, but there's a KT, questions are in the chat. So whoever KT is, please, because we cannot, yeah. We're not answering questions in the chat. Please speak.
You have to unmute. KT, if you're there, you have to unmute if you want to talk.
We're not doing chat with public. If you would like to ask a question, please ask a question. It's your time. Question, excuse me, one question at a time. I'm not sure how you expect anybody to answer all of the questions all at once. So the staff can answer the charge, the transfer out to other services. If you look at the agenda, it will say general admission fee. One will say community fee. We have to pay internet, as we're on internet right now. We pay all the different services out of different, and that's what funds those services.
Through the chair, all of those fees are done on board approved calculations. So does staff keep timesheets in charge of like a lawyer? No, staff does not do that.
Okay.
Any other
Any other?
question?
Maybe if there are rather things that take some time to work because we don't have the answers immediately, if we have them in writing, and why don't we just forward them to staff for a quick review, and staff will review the answers with us, and then we'll send them back to the proponents. Would that be a way of making these things work?
We don't have the information of who the proponents are, so I'm not sure who we send it back to.
Okay. Well, anything else?
Any other questions?
I think through the chair, it might just be important to note to everybody that's online and in the public is that the meeting is publicized on the RDCK website. It has a local spot being the village office, and we have had public there before, and it's online. So it actually has both in person and online available.
Which I would think that anybody that's online would know that it's available online. So thank you, Joe, for clarifying that. Any other questions from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next meeting of the Rec Commission number 7, Salmo and REG meeting be scheduled for not February 12th. Is that right?
Chair, you'll excuse me, but I do have to go. And I apologize to everybody. It wasn't supposed to be like this, but it is what it is. And hopefully I can make it up to you. I will kiss the ground you walk on and all the rest of those things in the future. And thanks a lot to the public for coming, and I apologize. Good night.
Right. Thank you, Director.
Through the chair, you're correct. We are the third, usually the third Monday.
Yeah, it's Family Day, February 19th.
That is why they moved it to February 12th.
But that is the one when our emergency meeting is on, is that same night. And that's why we changed this meeting to this day. So we're going to have to hold off on the next meeting of February 12th and figure out another date.
Is it okay with commission if staff and the chair work on that? Unless you have dates that you think you can provide right now.
If you want to do it that day, we could just put it to 7:30, and I can make sure the meeting I'm in before that is over by 7:30. Would you like to do that? Is everybody okay to do it at 7:30 instead of 7?
That's okay for us.
That's okay, okay. So let's keep it February the 12th, and we'll go to 7:30 instead on that day. Please make sure that it's changed in our calendar for 7:30, because right now it says 7 for that date. And I'll take adjournment.
Don't move.
Ian and Marissa, all in favor? Carried. 8:47. Thank you very much, everyone. I recognize how hard it is to try and do this over the internet. I was really hoping we'd have everybody here in the room and people could just watch us online, but or come. But hopefully the next one we can have everybody here. Be well.
I,
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Joe, you guys, stuff that's in the chat, there's no way for me to record it.
Sorry, do you want me? Sorry, I didn't catch that, Diana.
I don't know if there's any, that you're recording the chat questions. I don't know how you get any information back when nobody wants to identify themselves. So I think that you let go of that information and.
Yeah, there's nothing that I can do with this. I think we answered the questions that were in here.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, just so you know, it sounded really good as the meeting went on. It got better and better. It just had to warm up. So thank you very much.
Bye.